Hello, Lorcana YouTube community, and all my fellow Sapphire Steel players. This is going to be probably one of the first, and I think only videos that I've done so far where I kind of just turn on the camera and talk, not really trying to do too much editing. I have a lot of European members in my community asking me, what's the move for this weekend. And if you are a part of my Select Few Discord, I've been updating all of them through there. This past weekend, I did attend a 10K tournament here in Waco, Texas, and I was able to secure a top 16 placement back to back with this Sapphire Steel list. And I was content with my run, but I knew the deck could be better. So coming back, earlier throughout this week, I had a lot of members ask me, what's the move, what's the next step, what are the changes, what's going to go down. And I already made changes that I'll get into right now, but usually my Discord members and my Patreon members are a week ahead when it comes to lists and info, just because they always get access to it right away. So if you haven't joined my Discord, this is the Discord Select Few community. Shout out to everyone who's in there. It's not just Sapphire Steel; it's all Arcana talk. And a lot of awesome people in there. So if you haven't joined the Discord community and you want to keep talking about Lorcana or engaging with me outside of YouTube, go ahead and join. I'm going to have the link down in the description below. And I also upload a lot of my content, a lot of stuff exclusively on Patreon. There are a free tier and paid tiers that you can get. I actually have my Patreon here. And this morning, I actually did a DLC guide for the European members this weekend. I talked for about 30 minutes. I broke down the list, broke down strategies, tech choices, stuff like that. And the list that I'm going to show you guys here today is going to be this anti-meta list. I updated it and made the changes, but I actually have another list for Patreon members that is this list, but with a couple more different tech cards. And I actually discovered a package that's not being used, and this package is super good into Blurple, and I actually just built the deck to counter Blurple with this specific package. I'm keeping the list private though, just because it is for the European members. So if you do want access to the list, I do have my Patreon that you can sign up for. You also get access to this video and a couple of other content that I have here, and I also have some free content as well. But I'll have my Patreon down in the link below if you do want to have access to that list, to this video. Again, it's similar to this list, but there are a couple of changes, and the change that's in that list is pretty big. But for the most part, this is still pretty much the same thing when it comes to being able to counteract with Blurple. This is the updated anti-meta list, and if you look at the changes from right here, it's a lot, right? So I guess we'll go down and talk about the things I didn't like about the list that I was running on, and then moving forward. So before we get started with the video, if you guys haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and hit that sub button, leave a like, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of the list. The first thing you're going to notice is I actually took out the mess around with the Mulan Captain Hook ratio. I found that I was punishing myself too much playing Mulan, especially on the play. When you're using Sapphire Steel, you don't have to play a one drop. You only get punished if you go against like a Daisy or something like that. But for the most part, I was kind of trapping myself by playing Mulan, and the reason being is because I always needed an extra ink, whether that be through an Amari filter or having to get to my 7 cost characters. I just found there was an issue with that. Also, Mulan can't even take out Anala by herself. She can't take out 3 willpower characters. And I feel like right now, shout out to my homie Birdie and Zan, who won with Turner Dogs. All these low to the ground decks are going to become more relevant. That 3 willpower is huge. So I added in that Captain Hook, messing around with the Mulan ratio. And I found that it was actually better to add Develop Your Brain. Since Develop Your Brain, you can play on the play. You can play it when you're on the play turn 1 and help you filter out and find cards that you need. And Mulan's still good to be able to clear out uninkables, because we went down from 15 uninks to 14 uninks, but she's still able to filter out your cards and be a solid 1 drop character. And you always have that option to go 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, and sing Beyond the Horizon. So that's pretty nice. I added in Lilo. I took out the Pleakley. I found that Pleakley, for the most part, was making my head stress even more. Every time I had like Pleakley, Sales, Scrooge, I would always just like overwork my brain into figuring out what I want to do. And Pleakley is just a horrible mid to late game card. Always will be, always has been. A card like Lilo, I think, is very needed. The surprise factor that you can have on your opponents when you play this card is huge. I think the way I built this deck and same thing with the secret list I have, was the game plan was build to beat Blurple and don't lose to aggro decks on the play. If you go second against aggro decks, I mean, I wish you the best of luck. Every deck can get punished with triple daisy or something like that. But if you add in a card like Lilo, that's going to help you secure your games on the play into aggro and can even help you win on the draw. Reason being is because blue steel is very good at controlling the board, but once you control the board to the mid to the late game, or the mid game into these aggro decks when you're on the draw, they're already at like 17, 15 lore, and things can get out of hand. And you lose because you can't answer one character one turn, but you already have like three big guys out on board, and you're putting them on a clock, you just weren't able to answer their character. So I think if you're able to stop the lore bleeding very early on, that's going to be the catch up you need earlier in later on in the game. Also, it makes your first two turns very strong. Like going hook Tipo is already pretty good, but the fact that on turn three on the draw into Amber Steel or Turnidogs, not only have you already ramped, but now your hook is swinging for five and your Tipo is swinging for three. Hook can take out Rhinos, can take out Tianas, can take out Daisies, and then Tipo can take out any three willpower characters. So I think that's huge. Or also with Mulan, being able to take out Nalas, Daisy, stuff like that. You being able to slow down and stop your opponent from gaining that 5 to 4 lore is going to be the lore that you needed to catch up on previously, and that Lilo just being a surprise factor is huge. And also, compared to Pleakley, there are some spots in the mid to the late game in random matchups like Sapphire Steel, Emerald, or I'm sorry, Blurple or Emerald Sapphire, where you're doing trades, and that Lilo can come in and hook and take out John Silvers, can take out Hades, can take out stuff like that. So I think Lilo is the surprise factor that you need, and it's also going to guarantee you, if you do have it, winning those games on the play into aggro decks, and then on the draw, this is probably your best way to get games on the draw. And think about it, in a best of three, they're going first, and they're on Amber Steel. They're not going to think you're on Lilo, and if you punish them there, you can just win the game, and now you're on the play game three, and you just took that match. I went up to the four Kitas. I took out the Plutos. I feel like Pluto definitely underperformed. I just wanted another bruiser, but I feel like adding in that Lilo kind of fills in that same slot. And Kita is just amazing in the Sapphire decks, not being able to interact with her. You still get to ramp, and you get to filter. Her with Namari Mulan is a super nice little filter package that you can do. And the fact that your Sapphire Amethyst opponent cannot interact with Kita, with Elsa or Belle is huge. I think Ward has always been broken into that matchup, and she's just super solid. And then even if you do activate her ability and they trade into her, well, now you've enabled Tinkerbell or Vince to come up the following turn and eliminate something. I think it's also very key to be aware that, you know, if you set up two Kitas on the draw into Blurple, that's a guaranteed auto lock of Beyond the Horizon. They will not be able to activate, they will not be able to interact with your Kitas or stop you from Beyond the Horizon when you're on the draw into Blurple or even Emerald Sapphire. So that's something that's huge. You can punish them like that because usually when they're ahead, they're already drawing their Hades, their second star, stuff like that. So being able to sing Beyond the Horizon, a guarantee on the draw with two Kitas is really nice. And then other than that, you have the Scrooge and the Lilos and stuff, the weaker bodies to go against steel decks and stuff like that. I mean, you're never going to play Kita into those decks. And even if you do, well, it's a good thing you have Lilo to like boost her for 5, worst case scenario. The Scrooge, Uninkable Scrooge is just super huge. It's just the ultimate bruiser, beat stick, very nice singer to use Beyond the Horizon and stuff like that. And the 2 lore is very important. 4 copies of the Donald. I think Donald stays in the deck just for how consistent the game plan is with him. You're able to just play him and know that you can freely play your 7 cost the following turn. And there's actually a lot of times where you get to keep a card in your hand for Namari, or you don't even have to ink. You can kind of play a little bit slow. Because usually in the Blurple matchup, whoever Hades first is in a bad spot. So you always want to make sure you Vince first. But with a card like Donald, you can kind of slow down the game, get away with like playing a 6 drop because you already got to your 7 ink. But Donald's super good. Unfortunately, after he does come out though, he can be a little bit useless in a lot of different spots, especially as a top deck. So if you did want any flex spots, since we did go up to Kita, I mean, a Donald, you could cut a Donald for another copy of Strength of the Raging Fire or something like that. But I mean, I'll get into it. As we go on to strength. 4 copies of Namari. Namari still proved to be one of the better cards in the deck. It's just super solid into steel decks, very good into blue-green, and this card it's just a powerhouse, and your opponent is kind of forced to answer with her, because when you can freely quest with her, and then they usually want to remove her, and they usually have to do 2-for-1 trades. So Namari just super nice. Also being able to help us filter out these weak dead cards or uninkable cards and help us get to our key pieces. She's a super solid card overall. We're playing 4 copies of Robin Hood. I think Robin Hood is just better than Jasmine, because why would you play Jasmine when you can play Donald and you can just play a Hades or Vince the following turn? And then Robin Hood can draw you a card. That is something that people were telling me, why not Jasmine over the Namari, because Jasmine can, answer cards, Namari can't. But I mean, in that scenario, I'd always just want to Donald either way to get to my bigger characters. And then if you're gonna go against steel decks, I mean, Namari could have the same attack that Jasmine would have, but you don't even have to discard a card to do that. The Robin Hood is basically our own genie. It's the best way to answer evasive characters. Super nice to be able to draw a card as well. Super nice top deck. And overall, a fair card. 1 copy of Robin Hood, 1 copy of Donald. It could be some flex spot stuff like that. 2 copies of Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is also still really good. Just that unfortunately, I felt like Lilo can do what Tinkerbell does, but faster. And you have that nice balance of setting up a Lilo and then locking it down with the Tinkerbell when you finally get there. Because sometimes I felt like Tinkerbell came down too late. And her 1 ping is really relevant into the Blurple matchup. A lot of people might not think so, but you can remove Basil, stuff like that. You can do Tinkerbell and then the following turn play Vince. Their bell moving 1 damage isn't the worst, right? But you can do that. And then once you play her into like those steel decks, it kind of helps you secure the board. Still playing 4 copies of Hades, 4 copies of Vince, just the best 7 cost characters in the game. That's the whole reason to be playing Sapphire Steel. So getting out these characters as fast as possible is the game plan. And if you're able to chain these back to back, I mean, you're going to be in a huge spot. And then these cards can sink beyond the horizon themselves. We're back to the 2 copies. We added those 2 copies to develop. Again, I think it's better than having 4 copies of Mulan. You get to filter, play it off sale. You don't have to commit a card, and then the mid to the late game, way better than having a Mulan. Just always better. In my testing, like every time I top deck Mulan, it just felt horrible. You have to wait a turn to like get some value out of her, because waiting a turn and then drawing another bad card, at least playing Mulan there to filter out that bad card is okay. But develop is just overall a better top deck, and then it just helps with our consistency. 2 copies of Fire the Cannons. We're still playing Fire the Cannons because it actually won me on the draw some games into Amber Steel this past weekend, and I feel like if I don't run it, or I feel like it's at that point it's impossible to cut it. Like the fact that it sniped a rower for me and it sniped baby rhinos, and I won those games. It's just a necessary evil. It's really, really good into Purple Steel just because of all the illusion characters, and then even being able to snipe the Blurple's 1 drop is very, very big because they value the Elsa and their 1 drop trades. If not, the genie's gonna have to attack, and they never want to attack with the genie. And then you can also stop Madam Elephant, stuff like that. So Fire the Cannon is just super solid. 4 cells, self-explanatory. 4 visions. Visions, I mean, if Blurple's on Visions, we're going to be on Visions. Being able to find your Hades, Beyond the Horizons, your cards that you need in these spots. You want to have the best top deck possible. Visions of the Future is the way to go. Now for the controversial cards, controversial take. We're playing 2 copies of Strength of the Raging Fire. I was playing 3 copies. If you go back to this list, you see I'm on 3 copies. Yeah, I think that card was the least card that I played the whole weekend. I hated it. I hated it. I hated seeing it in my early hand. I hated having to set it up. I just hated this card so much. This deck just does not use Sapphire, does not use Strength of the Raging Fire the same way that other blue steel decks might use. But it's really only solid into Purple Steel, to be honest with you, when you're going like a Stallmate board. But even then, against Purple Steel, like I feel like with the rise of Blurple, Dogs, Amber Steel, like Purple Steel kind of just slowly falls off. I don't think they'll have a high meta share, but if you wanted to cut a Donald for third Strength of the Raging Fire or something like that along those lines, I mean, that'd be perfectly fine. You could go up to 3 strength. I think that card is just a necessary evil. You have to run it as well, but I'm glad that I wasn't running on 4 copies. So 2 or 3 is definitely the way to go. Again, you can cut 1 Donald because we have the Kita that can just filter us and get us to that ramp if need be, if you wanted to add more copies of Strength of the Raging Fire. And then we have 4 copies of Beyond the Horizon. This is also flexible. You can cut out 1 Beyond if you want to put a card like Doc just against those steel decks. You want to keep the gas going. I just found that there were a lot of times where, like, when I did have Doc and I didn't have a board into Blurple, for example, like, you're already kind of losing there. If you do have a board and you drop Beyond the Horizon, that's probably a way better card in that spot because you can punish Sapphire Amethyst players by after Beyond Horizon. They're holding on to Hades, stuff like that. And I found that on curve, Doc was just never really being played effectively. I would always discard him because the main game plan of this deck is to get to your 7-drop. So you really only want to draw pretty much after turn 5, turn 6, something along those lines. So at that point, you should have a Beyond in your hand or a Visions to be able to just refill and keep the gas going. And with the rise of blue green as well, because of how popular purple is going to be, Beyond the Horizon can punish those Clarabelle draws as well. You know, you can draw 6 cards, your opponent draws 6 cards. They gave you a Hades. You can smack the Hades down, remove the Clarabelle, and then if you had other characters on board, then you sing that Beyond the Horizon and you can punish them. That's really huge. I think Beyond the Horizon is going to be your best way to beat Blurple on the play, on the draw. Just being able to remove all those cards in their hand, their key pieces, is the way to go. That's the reason why I cut Doc. It just felt really lackluster, felt really weak. But if you wanted to play Doc, you could cut one Beyond the Horizon, add in a Doc. If you wanted to play another copy of Strength of the Raging Fire, you can cut a Donald, something along those lines, and you should be fine. But overall, I think Sapphire Steel is in a solid spot. I would be taking Sapphire Steel if I was headed to the DLC this weekend. I have a lot of community members going to take Sapphire Steel. Mind you, they're going to take the secret list, the list that I'm working on. Again, it's pretty much similar to this list with a few cards that are cut, but those cards that are cut are undiscovered and undiscovered strategy and undiscovered package that we just found out on Monday a few days ago. We tested it and it works really well. Our success win rate has increased even more, but both these lists are very valuable. Again, they're pretty much the same thing, other than those 4 to 6 card changes. If you do want access to that list, access to that video, again, I have it here on Patreon. I go over that list and the list that you see here. I go over both lists because both of them are super strong. I just felt like the other list has a way better matchup into Blurple and into Green Blue, and you have access to that on my Patreon. And then also on the Discord, we have this Patreon chat where we're talking about the list, talking about everything this past week, all the data, everyone that's been using, testing. Super awesome. Just this community, we see everyone talking. And then this is actually crazy too, by the way. This guy is playing some red purple shenanigans. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah. That's pretty much it for the list. I think last minute thoughts. Sapphire Steel again is in a great spot because you're able to go toe to toe with every deck in the meta. And you're able to beat Blurple. You can beat Green Blue. You can beat Purple Steel. You can beat Amber Steel. You can beat all these decks. So why not play Blue Steel? The one thing that Blue Steel has going for it, like always, is it's a rogue deck. Your opponent has 0 practice into it, and if they did have practice into it, they probably went against a Scar ally build, and we're not on that build, right? You have that surprise factor. Your opponent doesn't know what you're on, and you have cards that are just better on the blind than other decks do. And cards like Lilo or Beyond the Horizon as a surprise factor on the draw could be the turning the tide that you need to win that game and then be on the play game 3. And if you're on the play with Sapphire Steel, I mean, you should never lose. I think just don't punish yourself with greedy lines. Always keep an extra card in your hand for Namari. Plan out your turns 3 to 5 turns ahead. Don't be afraid to sing Beyond the Horizon, because there's going to be times where if you don't, they're going to remove your characters and then you're never going to be able to get it off. And then that's pretty much it. Go for free trades, quests when it's free, quests when you're going to get value, and for the most part, always mulligan for ramp. But again, the lines is very simple. You either go 1, 2, 4, and you can sing Beyond the Horizon, or you fight board. So you have your Sapphire strategy, and then you have your Steel strategy. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. I wish the best of luck to everyone who's headed to the DLC this weekend. Safe travels. And shout out to my Patreon members, especially the paid ones, who took those extra steps, took those extra coachings, wanted to make sure they squeeze all the information out of me, because I've been playing Sapphire Steel for the past 8 weeks now, or how long, set 9, the proxies or whatever. I've been playing Sapphire Steel this whole set. And all the data that we have led up to this moment, and whatever happens, I'm going to be content, because I know these guys who are taking these lists are content with the list themselves. So that's already really good. Really good. It takes that off my chest, right? That we were able to create something that's really successful. And with my placing I had this past weekend, that was the last boost that they needed to be like, bet, let's run it. So if you guys did enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the list. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and hit that sub button. Go ahead and join my Discord community. I'm going to have the link down below. I also have my Patreon that I'll have the link down below as well, so you can watch this DLC guide specifically for the Patreon paid members. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and wish you guys the best of luck. Peace out.